And we are live. Thank you for joining me on the live stream. Tonight, we're going to talk about 3 steps, we're going to discuss 3 steps to a seamless life without internal conflict. If you're watching live now during the stream, drop a comment below letting us know where you're watching from. Let's have a look at the comments. I'm going to keep an eye on them. If you have questions and thoughts during the stream while I'm talking, questions you want to ask, thoughts you want to share that we can discuss maybe later on in the live stream, drop a comment below. Write live Q in capitals at the beginning of the comment to make sure that I notice it and see that it's there. And I'm going to come back to the comments at the end of the stream and address them all as best as I can. So we're talking about 3 steps to a seamless life without internal conflict. So first of all, I want to clarify, what do I mean by internal conflict? Right? There are many kinds of conflict, and this is a specific kind of conflict, internal conflict. So, every one of us has many things we're involved in. Our lives have many, many different moving parts, and today especially more than ever. We have our personal lives, we have our business lives, our professional lives, our work lives. Personally, we have the things that we're involved in individually. We have family responsibilities. We have social commitments with friends. We have things that we need, things that our friends and family need, things that work need, things that we want. We have personal interests and pursuits. We have so many different things going on. And within every one of these categories, there are lots of different things probably pulling our attention in lots of different directions. Shalom from New York, Linda. Good to see you. And when having so many things going on in life can very easily become a source of conflict, right? There could be conflict between our personal life and our work life, right? Work-life balance. We can have conflict between family commitments and social commitments and work commitments. And with any of these things, we can have a lot of different things that are pulling us in different directions. And, things can very easily conflict with each other. And really, this is probably more of a problem today than it's ever been, which is part of why I want to talk about it so much, why it's so important. It's always been a problem, right? As long as people have been around, since the world was created, for as long as we've been here on this planet trying to do our best, everyone's had a lot of things to deal with, right? And when we have a lot of things to deal with, there can be conflict. But it's very clear, as much as this has always been true today, with the extent that we connected and the extent to which socially and family and work, people expect things from us on the spot, instantaneously, and we're all involved in more things than people have ever been involved in before. We have more things going on than people have ever had going on before. The likelihood today of internal conflict being a really substantial issue is a lot higher than it was, even 10 years ago. And not just the likelihood, also the extent to which there's conflict between the different things going on in our lives is so much more than it was even just a few years ago, let alone further back in the past and in history. So the fact that we have so much going on in life, and it's so realistic and likely that we're going to have conflict. And the fact is, conflict can be a source of negative emotion. Conflict can be a source of tension and of stress and all kinds of things that we'd rather not have in our lived experience more than necessary. Ideally, not at all. So if there's something we can do, if there's a process that we can go through to remove that internal conflict, it would be a really good idea to clarify, figure out what it is, and then figure out how we can practically go about it. So another reason also why I want to talk about it specifically this week is that we have a beautiful insight into eliminating internal conflict in this week's Torah portion. So let's get down practically now to 3 steps to eliminating internal conflict. I'm going to list 3 steps and then we're going to get into them more deeply and elaborate. Step number 1 is to clarify what life means to you. Step number 2 is identify how each of the things you do contributes towards it, towards what it is that life means to you. And step number 3 is to develop an awareness and appreciation of how everything you do is part of the same one picture. So step number 1, clarify what life means to you. This is a much bigger deal than it seems at first glance, for 2 reasons. First of all, to figure out what it is that really makes life valuable and meaningful. Right? Figuring that out is probably a bigger task than it sounds like. And then to figure that out and consolidate it down into something concise and sharp and clear it's a challenge. Right? It's something that if we sit down and actually try to do it, we're probably going to find that it takes more effort than we expected. And the second reason, and perhaps more importantly, why it's such a big deal to clarify what life means to us, what life means to you, is because once we do figure out what is the primary core source of value and meaning in our lives, that then, once we figure that out, that can be the thing that brings everything we're involved in our lives, without exception, together. Bring it all together so that we don't have conflict and tension anymore. So that's step number 1, is to figure out, stop and really think and clarify, right? And use the word clarify because most of us probably know roughly. But if someone asked us to really spell it out clearly and concisely, it might take some time of going around in circles and rambling a little and as we figure it out and clarify. So step number 1, and it's something that might take some time and effort to do, is to clarify, what does our life mean to us? What is life about for me? What's life about for you? And then once we've figured that out, once you know clearly, and you have a clear, concise, sharp definition or description of what life means to you, what is your life about, what is the primary core source of value and meaning in your life, then we can move on to step number 2. And step number 2 is to identify how the things we're involved in contribute towards what it is that brings meaning and purpose and value to our lives. Now, it could be that there are things in our lives that really don't belong in our lives, things that we're involved in that we really shouldn't be because they're against our values, because they're in conflict with who we want to be and the life we want to live. And if we are involved in things that fit that description, and likely most of us are to varying degrees, it's probably a good idea to put some time and effort into seriously considering how we might practically make those things become less a part of our life, and ideally how to eliminate them completely. But for everything else, right, the things that are in our lives and the things that need to be in our lives or should be in our lives, our basic needs, our professional responsibilities, personal responsibilities, our individual personal responsibilities and needs, things we're responsible to take care of ourselves, things we're responsible to our families, social commitments, things that are maybe not necessarily needs or responsibilities, but personal interests and pursuits, things that maybe make our lives more pleasant and more vibrant. They're not necessarily needs or responsibilities. We've all got so many things that we're involved in. Things can get very complicated very quickly, and things can start to conflict with each other, and before we know it, it can become pretty messy until we start applying these steps. So once we've gone through step number 1 and we've clarified what it is that life means to us, what is it that is the primary core source of value and purpose and meaning in our lives, then we can go on to step number 2 and start identifying how each of the things we do and each of the things we're involved in contributes towards that. Now, an example or two to illustrate. A person defines their life, what makes their life meaningful, what brings them value and meaning and purpose in their life, what it is that their life's about, is For someone it might be strongly focused and with an emphasis on family. For someone else that might be an emphasis on making a contribution to society, maybe in a specific way, whether it's teaching something social, whether it's, putting an emphasis on Torah, on mitzvahs, on following the guidelines of the Torah, living a life that's aligned with the purpose of existence as defined in Torah, with any way we want to spin it. And, for different people, different things are going to resonate, even if a lot of them, or maybe even all of them are, very closely related. Our hearts speak different languages, right? And for different people are going to relate to different things, and different, words and ways of defining things are going to resonate differently for different people. So, sorry, one second. So, and maybe I've defined my purpose as teaching, as sharing things, sharing insights from Torah and from mysticism of Torah that are going to help people improve their lives, live their best lives, know their why, and be everything that they're born to be, which puts my emphasis on studying those things and on sharing them, and sharing them in a way that they resonate and people get them. There are plenty of things I do that don't necessarily seem to be a big part of that, or seem to be related at all. But when I eat, when I sleep, when I do exercise, right, those are things that are not directly part of what I've defined as my mission, but all of those things are necessary in order for me to do that. And for everybody, right, everybody needs to sleep to be healthy, and needs to get enough sleep to be maximally functional. We need to eat well to be functional. So although eating, sleeping, exercise, for example, might not actually be a part of what we've defined our life as being about, and they might not be part of what we've defined as the thing that makes our life valuable and meaningful, those are things that we necessarily have to do if we want to successfully engage in the things that do make our lives meaningful and valuable. Which means that when we do those things, right, if I've clarified that the thing that I'm here to do is to share insights from Torah mysticism, from Torah that are going to help people improve their lives, that are going to make people's lives more meaningful, if I need to sleep in order to be healthy and functional, and I need to eat well to be healthy and functional, it's not so hard to identify how those things contribute towards what it is that brings my life purpose and meaning. Right? When I eat, I'm eating because I need to do that to do what I'm here for. I need to sleep in order to do what I'm here for. And those are some basic, obvious examples. Maybe I have an email that I have to respond to that's taking my attention, and it's something that is very peripheral, and it's annoying and frustrating, and I didn't have to deal with it. But if I do have to deal with it, if it's part of what I need to get done in order to be able to do what I have to do, then when I do that, I'm doing it because in some way it's necessary for me to do what I have to do, means it is contributing towards what it is that makes my life valuable and what it is that gives my life meaning. And, we could apply this, anything that belongs in our life, right? And maybe it's something that I don't need to do. Maybe it's recreation. Maybe it's hanging out. Maybe it's, doing something that I just enjoy. If, we're not robots, we're human. And most people can't just sleep, eat, exercise, work, and be involved in the things that are part of, that are clearly defined as part of their mission. We're human. We all need some downtime. We need some recreation. We need some relaxation. We need some, some personal space, downtime. And when we do that, when we just relax, when we just chill, when we engage in some sort of recreation that helps us feel our best, that lets us relax and get back to ourselves and then be able to be refreshed and to do what we have to do afterwards, right? We need downtime and recreation to be healthy and to be functional, which means that recreation and downtime, having fun, hanging out, also are contributing towards what it is that makes our life meaningful and valuable, even if it's not directly part of it per se. And this could be true of every single thing we do. Anything we do throughout the day, if we're supposed to be doing it, if it's not something we shouldn't be doing, then by definition, it does in some way have to be contributing towards what it is that our life is about. It might be 10 steps removed, it might be 20 steps removed, but if it's contributing, if we can identify how it contributes, we can now identify how this thing, if I need to go teach, or I need to get home and, get involved in responsibilities to my family, if in order to be able to do those things at my best, I need to have a few minutes of downtime, I need to do something recreational to get into a good frame of mind and to feel energized, if that's a necessity, then having downtime, being involved, doing something recreational, having fun, hanging out, whatever it is contributing towards the things that are meaningful, the things that make my life valuable, right? And there are things that might be further removed, but if it's something that contributes towards, even through 10 or 20 steps of separation, if it contributes, then it's part of the picture and it belongs. And that's where step number 3 is. Step number two and 3 are kind of maybe 2A and 2B, we could call them. Step number 2 is to look at each thing, everything we do, and identify how it's contributing towards the thing that makes our life valuable and meaningful. And then step number 3 is to work, and this is something that happens over time, and it's a skill that we learn, and it's a way of thinking and a thought process of developing an awareness and appreciation for when we do something, when we're involved in something that feels like it's mundane, and maybe it feels like it doesn't have much point, and there's no point in, I wish I didn't have to be involved in this. If we do need to be involved in it, if it's a necessity, through however many degrees of separation, if it's a necessity for what it is that we need to be doing, what it is that makes our life meaningful and valuable, then it's contributing, and then it's a part of that picture, right? If our life is a big, multi-dimensional, complex picture, all of which revolves around that one thing that makes our life valuable and meaningful, everything in our life and everything that we're doing should, hopefully, be contributing somehow, right? And whether it's contributing directly, indirectly, whether it's supporting our health, whether it's supporting our well-being, whether it's just a need that we have, whether it's something that's going to just put us in a better frame of mind, whatever it is, if it's something that we need to do because it's a necessity for that purpose, for that thing, then it's a part of this picture. It belongs in this big, multi-dimensional, complex picture of our life. If it's contributing towards that one thing, and that's step number 2 is identifying how it contributes, then step number 3 is when we're doing that thing, if we're involved in something and it feels frustrating, it feels like, this is in conflict with what I really want to be doing, I really rather be teaching, I really rather be involved in, something that's my source of meaning, something that's my mission, something that, is what I believe I'm here to do. If we can stop and learn to, once we've identified how that thing contributes, to then appreciate the fact that if it's contributing to that thing, then it's part of the same picture. Everything we need to do in order to live the life that we want to live and to be the person that we want to be is a part of that picture, and it's all part of the same picture, right? And when you have a team, and maybe not a team, let's say, but you have a small business, a startup, and maybe there's just one person running it or a couple of people. Each one of those people, or you have one person, starting a small business and they have to do everything themselves and they're doing, wearing 20 different hats and doing 100 different tasks every day. And it can be difficult and hard to keep track, etc., etc. But the bottom line is the reason that one person's wearing all of those 20 hats is because the business, and there might be one thing that the business is about and one thing they want to achieve, but if all of those 20 hats need to be worn in order for that to succeed, and all of those 100 different tasks need to be carried out in order for that business to succeed, then every one of those 100 tasks is contributing to the objective and is a part of the picture. Anything that needs to be there as a requirement for the purpose to be fulfilled, for the core source of value and meaning to be realized, is a meaningful part of the picture, and it's all part of the same picture. It's all on the same team, right? And as this person, maybe the business grows and the business expands and there are more and more people on the team, you'll have people doing different things. You might have people doing different jobs that seem opposite. You have a big company and there's a sales team and there's a buying team, and the sales team is bringing in revenue by getting rid of stock, and the buyers are spending money to bring stock in. They're doing opposite things, but they're not in conflict with each other. They're both serving the same objective, which is to generate a profit. In order to generate a profit, you have to buy something at a good price and you have to sell it at a profit. So you need to have people who are spending money to bring in goods, and then you have to have people who are selling the goods to bring in more money at a profit. Right? We might be doing things in our lives that seem to be opposite, but if they're all contributing, they're all part of the same picture. It's just a matter of step number 1, identifying what's the thing that our life is about. Step number 2, identifying how everything we do contributes to that. And then step number 3, practicing and learning the thought process and the skill of becoming aware of how each thing, because it contributes to that, is really all part of the same one big picture and is not in conflict. These things are not in conflict with each other, as long as they really do belong in our lives and as long as they're really supposed to be there. And the connection, and the reason I said part of why I wanted to talk about this specifically this week is because we see this message in something that seems to be a little bit strange in this week's Torah portion. So this week's Torah portion, Parshas Yisroel, talks about the giving of the Torah, the 10 Commandments on Har Sinai, on Mount Sinai. And one of the things that's described, one of the things the Torah says about this event is that God spoke in this great voice that didn't echo, which seems like a pretty strange thing to say. If you want to emphasize how loud something is, you wouldn't say it was so loud that there wasn't even an echo. The sound was so powerful that there was no echo. It seems more intuitive that if you want to emphasize how loud something is, you would talk about how much it reverberated and echoed and was going back and forth, until we stop and think about what is it exactly that an echo is, right? When you hear an echo, right, why is it that we hear echoes only in certain environments? An echo is, when you hear an echo, it means you're hearing the sound twice, right? If I'm talking in a place, maybe in a room that has an echo, or outdoors in an environment that has an echo, and I talk to you and you hear an echo, what that means is you hear my voice directly, and then you hear it a second time bouncing off the walls, bouncing off the mountains, or whatever it is that it's bouncing off of. You hear it twice. And it's because when the sound hits the walls and bounces back off, hits the roof and bounces back off, hits the mountains and bounces back off, it hits the surface, bounces back off, and hits your ears a second time, and you hear an echo. When the Creator gave us the Torah on Mount Sinai, on Har Sinai, when Hashem spoke the 10 Commandments, the reason there was no echo was not because the sound wasn't loud enough to bounce back and reverberate. It's because the sound was so intense that it actually penetrated in. The sound was absorbed into the ground. The sound was absorbed into the objects, into the people. Anywhere that voice, any surface, any object that voice encountered, it penetrated, it was absorbed in. The reason there was no echo was not because it wasn't loud enough. It was because it was absorbed. Nothing bounced back. There was no bouncing. God's voice went into everything, was absorbed into everything. And the reason for that is because when God gave us the Torah, why is it that God gave us the Torah? Why is it that we don't just live here and do our thing and live a material, mundane life, and then God's God and angels are angels and spirituality is spirituality, and we're just down here doing our thing? The reason that the universe exists, and the reason that we exist, and the reason that God gave us the Torah, that Hashem gave us the commandments on Har Sinai, on Mount Sinai, was so that we could follow the guidelines of the Torah, and in doing so, we could integrate divinity into the world. Every time we do something we're supposed to do, we integrate divinity into the world. When we do a mitzvah, when you put on tefillin, and anything you use for a mitzvah becomes sacred and it has to be treated that way. Why? Because when you use something for a mitzvah, divinity, godliness becomes integrated into it. That's the whole point. And when I go to sleep at night with the intent that I'm going to sleep so that I can be rested and I can have the energy and the health and the well-being to do the things I need to do tomorrow, then all the good things I do tomorrow become the soul of that sleep. And the sleep itself has become divine, and the pillow has become divine. The alarm clock is divine. Everything now has had divinity integrated into it because all of those things were contributing towards the things that I'm doing that have a higher purpose, which means they themselves have a higher purpose. When I eat, when you do exercise, whatever it is, when you plunge a toilet, it doesn't matter how mundane something is. If you're doing it because it's a part of what you need to do to get done what you need to get done, to fulfill your purpose, to fulfill your mission, to do what it is that makes your life valuable and meaningful, then that action itself is valuable and meaningful. And it's not in conflict with the things that you really want to be focusing on, because it's contributing towards them. There is no part of our lives that cannot become divine. There is no part of our lives that cannot have divinity integrated into it. And that's why when the Ten Commandments were given, when Hashem spoke, when the Creator spoke the commandments on Mount Sinai, there was no echo. Because the voice penetrated into everything. It was absorbed into everything. It was integrated into everything. Because that's the whole point. The whole point of everything, the point of why we're here, and the point of God giving us the Torah and the mitzvahs, was so that we could do what we have to do and to integrate divinity into the physical matter, into the objects we interact with, into the actions, the things that we're involved in. Everything can have divinity integrated into it. There is nothing in life that has to have the divinity, godliness, just rebounce back off of it. Everything can become divine. And when everything we do is contributing towards us realizing the purpose of existence, when everything we do is contributing through however many degrees of separation, if it's contributing towards realizing why we're here and fulfilling our mission and maximizing our potential, then everything we do is divine. Everything we do has a purpose. And everything we're involved in is all a part of the same one picture. It might be a picture, the big three-dimensional picture that has a lot of things going on. But all of those things have a common thread and none of them are in conflict. And when we go through these 3 steps, clarifying what is it really that life is about, identifying how everything we do contributes towards that, and then learning to really appreciate that and appreciate how everything is a part of that one picture. And it's a process and it's a skill that it takes time to get better and better at doing. But as we get better and better at doing that, there is by definition going to be less and less internal conflict. Because once we learn to identify that and to appreciate it, when something comes up that feels mundane, that feels, like it would rather not have to spend time on it, and it might be natural to feel frustration and to feel like it's in conflict with what we really need to be doing. Once we learn to identify how it's contributing and why it's necessary, and to then appreciate how that makes it part of the picture, it's no longer in conflict. And what that allows us to do is to engage in that thing, whatever it is that we need to do, and to be involved and to do it happily and to do it with excitement and with positivity, instead of feeling frustrated and irritated and wishing we didn't have to do it. We can actually embrace it, which means we're going to enjoy the experience more. It's going to be making a positive contribution to our experience instead of a negative contribution. It's going to contribute positive emotion instead of negative emotion. Chances are we're going to get it done more effectively. We're going to get it done more efficiently, and we're going to move past it more quickly and get on to the things that we really would rather be doing, because they have less degrees of separation to the thing that gives our life purpose and meaning. And, step number one is maybe really, to a degree, a one-time thing, but it's something that I think, if we take it seriously, will develop over time, and we'll clarify it further and solidify it further, and it'll get sharper and clearer, and maybe over time it evolves as our focus changes in life, as our appreciation changes, becomes deeper, more complex, right? But step number one to a seamless life without internal conflict is to clarify what is it that is the primary core source of value and meaning in life. And once that is clear, we are then able to move on to steps number 2 and number 3, which are to identify how everything we do is contributing towards that one thing, and to then be able to appreciate, to develop an awareness and appreciation how, because everything we do contributes towards that, everything we do is a part of the same one picture. And then the things we're involved in are not in conflict with each other. If we're supposed to be at the job that we're at and we're supposed to be doing what we're doing, if we're supposed to be involved in the professional pursuits that we're involved in, and we're also supposed to be, taking care of our family responsibilities and our social commitments, it might be complicated to figure out when and where and how to make them all work, but at least if we don't feel internal conflict, we understand, we realize all of these things are part of what we're supposed to be doing. All of these things are contributing towards why we're here. All of these things are contributing towards the life that we're supposed to be living. Then they're not in conflict with each other. They all belong. They're all part of the same picture. It doesn't mean it definitely won't be complicated. It doesn't mean it'll be simple to just figure out how to coordinate everything and fit everything in. But at least there won't be tension, because we won't feel the frustration, the irritation, the negative emotion associated with feeling like the things are in conflict with each other and they're opposing each other, because they certainly shouldn't be. And if we go through these 3 steps, hopefully they won't be. And while, especially in the world we live in today, chances are there's always going to be complexity in figuring out how to fit everything in and coordinate everything. By going through these 3 steps, by understanding that the reason there was no echo at the giving of the Torah when Hashem gave us the Torah on Mount Sinai was because that divinity of God's voice was absorbed into everything and integrated into everything. And the same is true of our lives, that the true source of value and meaning in our lives, when that drives everything we do, it becomes the soul of everything we do. It becomes integrated into everything we do, and everything just becomes part of one big picture. I'm gonna head into the comments. Astronomical indeed. Thank you everybody for the comments. Appreciate the thought, Andrew. If anyone has a question, drop it in a comment now. I'll do my best to answer it. If you have a specific thought you want to share, you'd like to discuss or address, drop it in the comments. And just quickly before we wrap it up, if you like this format, if you like the live streams and you'd like to see more of them, drop a comment, let me know, and I'll make an effort to do them more regularly. Thanks everyone for joining. And oh, 1 second. We still know that can stop. We started already. If you want to get notifications, if you want to receive short videos on WhatsApp, there's a number at the bottom of the screen you can see to subscribe. Send the word subscribe in a WhatsApp message to 646-883-8458. If you want to subscribe on YouTube, you can go to rabbiglick.link/YT/YouTube. And I'm going to check back in the comments. And you're welcome, Linda. Thank you very much for joining. I appreciate your participation. All right, everybody, have a good night. And I'll see you next time. You can also, if you want to subscribe to emails, you can go to rabbiglick.link/subscribe, and I usually send out an email a day or two before I go live, and it'll, include a link so you can put in your calendar. It'll give you a link so you can log in and watch and participate. Thank you very much, Andrew. That's a beautiful comment. I really appreciate it, and it's an honor. It's an honor to be able to be a source of insight and inspiration, and I'll do my best to keep it up. And I'll see you all next time. Have a great night and enjoy the rest of your week. And it's Wednesday. As of Wednesday, the custom is we can already wish each other a good Shabbos. So wishing everybody a good Shabbos, and yeah, I'd like to wish everybody, myself, all of you, everybody who's here live at the moment, and everybody who's watching afterwards, and everybody in the world who's not watching and will never see this video. All of us should, be able to clarify that and to be able to bring that purpose into everything we do, and allow our purpose and allow what it is that makes our life valuable and meaningful to become the soul of everything we do, and to integrate divinity into everything we do, so that there's no conflict and everything all comes together as many, many parts of a seamless, complex but seamless picture without any internal conflict. Thanks again. A good Shabbos to you too, Linda. All the best, everybody. We'll see you next time.